Lots of good projects. I hope you're taking amazing meetings. This is going to be a killer panel, and I'm so excited to share who's going to be on stage. But before I do that, I have to thank Apoorva Bakshi for actually curating this panel, coming up with this brilliant idea, and bringing in all these incredible people together. So Apoorva, thank you. You're running triple duty. I see you meeting my screenwriters, my box office people, doing this, doing that. So what a huge asset we have in you. Thank you so much, Apoorva, for everything. On that note, Apoorva Bakshi. Apoorva is the producer, Audacious Originals. We also have with us Monisha Advani, producer, Emmay Entertainment. Monisha, please join us on stage. We have Aditi Anand, the producer, Little Red Car Films. Aditi, please join us. Vani, Tripathi, Tikoo, actor, producer, author, and board member for the CBFC. Okay. So, okay. And last but not least, we have our fantastic moderator, Ramachandran from International Correspondent Variety Magazine. Naman, please come up. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Jitin. So as Jitin said, it's the last panel of the day. I know all of you are waiting to go and have your drinks on the lawn, but I can promise you that this panel will be as intoxicating. And for those who don't drink alcohol, it'll be even more intoxicating. Great. So I think Vani is probably on her way. Let's start with you, Aditi. Tell us why this topic is important.
Why this topic is important? I think this topic is important for me personally, and I'll answer personally, is because I'm going to use a quote from Desmond Tutu. And this has become more and more important to me in recent months and years. When an elephant is standing on a mouse's tail, the mouse doesn't appreciate your neutrality. And I think that the world that we're living in today is a highly binary world. And we're living through times that we never thought we would see. And I think that if we don't give ourselves a platform, we'll never have the chance to tell our stories ourselves. And if we want to take control of that narrative, I wouldn't say war, but a cultural battle is upon us. And if we want to be the ones to set that narrative straight, then we need to be able to take control of how we make films and how we leverage the platforms that are available to us to be able to get those conversations out there. So,
thank you. So now, before we get into the specifics of projects and how they become hyperlocal, Apoorva, can we talk about metrics? What are the metrics by which you measure the success of something like The Hunt for Veerappan, your Netflix series?
I think, Naman, the metrics are actually really walled for us because the platforms really don't share real numbers in terms of viewership. But there are some kind of criteria that trending visibility in terms of what the viewers are watching. The algorithm really drives that, and those kind of data points don't lie. They do hold some special sessions for us to understand what were the dropping points. But to be very honest, the biggest sign of success for The Hunt for Veerappan was that non-doc viewers were watching it, which was the most heartening statistic for me to, that was a very intentioned design of the creative as well, to be able to achieve a seamlessness in viewing, which is so cinematic that it feels like you're watching a fictional series. And you're vested in those characters, and you're vested in the fractured psyche of the protagonist. So the entire viewership, the only statistic that really appealed to me was, yes, completion hours, what are those kind of data points that come to us from the platform itself. But the biggest heartening number was that the non-doc viewers watched it in spades, and not only across the world, where true crime is appreciated, documentaries appreciated, the north of India watched it, which was the biggest win, in my opinion. And I think that was purely because we sat on the dub scripts ourselves. Like, when you create material for OTT platforms, you give it to the downstreaming teams. So once you're ready with your final cut, we create it in original language, and they create 17 language dubs and so on and so forth. We were, like, till the last day of downstream, that's the process. We subtitled, the creator and I subtitled our own material, and we got professors in different languages to make sure that the dub scripts also resonated, the dub voices resonated. That's where you lose the viewer. And the Hindi, honestly, I finally saw the show. I've seen so many 100 cuts of it. When I finally saw the show, I saw it in Hindi with my grandmom, and it was so seamless that it was meditative. Almost, it was very, very also, in a dub language, you don't have to focus on subtitles, right? It completely gripped you, and you didn't need, it was a binge experience after that, because you were captivated by the world, the cinematic value, and the story itself is very thrilling. So yeah, that was the metric.
And does the streamer share statistics of, you're talking about the Indian audience, of who is watching in which part of India? As in, do you have like a state-wise breakup? I'm asking simply because even within this subject, hyperlocal, Veerappan is quite hyperlocal to South India, specifically Karnataka and Tamil Nadu.
Yeah.
So did you get those breakdown of numbers?
No, but while creating, while we were on that, it was a 4-year journey for us. And I used to always request for data points of all other performing assets. Because, like, to do it in 4 episodes, this was a story that can be told in 20, like, we have a fictional version which can brew into 3 seasons, 8 episodes. That's so much material that we have on Veerappan. But to be able to make it into 4 episodes was a very clear mandate, because there were 2 shows. Wild Wild Country, if you remember, as the original OG doc that started the whole, binge viewing, thrilling pull into documentaries. But Don't Fuck with Cats, which is another show, did the best across the world for a Netflix viewer. And that is a 4 episode. And that was a very clear set. As in Duplass brothers to Selvamani, Selvaraj and Apoorva Bakshi, everybody was given a mandate to do 4 episodes. And it made sense to me. And that's what you see. That's a successful metric of a doc series, has that kind of viewer hold. That's it. There are many more metrics that we kept gauging. What is the dropping point of episode 1? What is the dropping point of episode 2? What is it that will... So while writing the doc, while designing the graphics, now anybody who's born in 2000, the era of 2000, nobody knows Veerappan. We had a perception, a perception of, nobody had a perspective on his story. So the music and the graphics that we drew into was by design to be able to attract a younger audience, to say it's a thriller. It's about a boogeyman that our parents used to say, khana kha lo, nahi to Veerappan aa jayega, right? Like, so we wanted to really drive that thing, and it was very intentional in terms of drawing that creative map, so that we can draw viewers who are younger, who don't know about him, those who know his mustache and his face but don't know the real story. Because I didn't know about Rajkumar's abduction till the time I dived into the world of Veerappan. So it was very interesting how that got constructed and truly then traveled globally. We have very fantastic numbers from the global audience, but they don't give regional data. They give programming data, which kind of then you gauge. It was number 1 for 3 weeks in 31 countries. That statistics come online on the Tudum website. So that's how we gauge our success, and then they give us more shows to make. So that's another way to.
That's the best metric.
That's the best metric, I suppose.
So, Monisha, you're a shining example of a topic which is hyperlocal, subject matter becoming global hits, starting with D-Day and more recently, Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. So, as a producer, how do you go about crafting the subjects, really?
Thanks, Naman. I just want to actually segue actually a little into what Apoorva was saying, and then I want to take from that and share an example with Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. Those of you who have watched the film will know that we have Rani Mukherjee in it. And Rani Mukherjee is somebody who the diaspora, the South Asian diaspora recognizes her globally. So that was a very big tick. But let me tell you what was the big negative that was flagged off initially when we were casting. She has no social media presence on her own, which is interesting because she's one of the most searched names on Google. So it's very strange as to what we consider sometimes metrics when we're casting and putting together a film. What's more interesting is, and this was a challenge that my partners, the film's creator, director, Ashima, we all struggled with, was that the script that came to us was in English, but as we were writing and developing it for a film, we realized that the authenticity of keeping it in Bengali was important. So when you watch the film, you'll realize, thank you, it's largely in Bengali. There's English, there's Norwegian, and there's probably about 10% Hindi. And yet it classified as a Hindi film, did amazingly internationally, and we were delighted to have our partner Z on it because they backed the journey and they really took this film to some amazing centers it would have never played in Europe. Of course, the traditional North America, the UK, the Middle East, these are markets that we're all aware of. I think hyperlocal global hits really comes from the authenticity of the local stories. For example, Veerappan. For example, the kind of work that Aditi is doing. I think when we look at cinema today, we have to realize that our biggest validation comes from this little device that's in everybody's hands. And they look to it before they even look to their best friend to ask whether they should go and watch a film, or what do they think of it. Because the first thing they do when they're watching Rocket Boys, which is what we made, is, wow, did these guys really exist? And did India really have these scientists in them? Wow, and they're real. Did you know this guy, Homi Baba, really existed? It's fascinating what you can achieve by partnering with the technology that's surrounding all of us and empowering all of us. So really, to answer your question, Naman, I think for us, as a team, as a company, as producers, the secret sauce that we go into work with is find really authentic stories, or then find stories with authenticity in them that will be the breadcrumbs that bring the audience all over the world and link them to it.
Thank you. Now, welcome, Vani ji.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask you a very specific question about your recent experience in Spain. Yeah. Now, I think you had a very unique experience, and which ties in neatly with our topic, where you saw lots of hyperlocal content being made or rather developed for the international market. So can you share some of your experiences?
Thank you, Naman. Contemporary question. I'll try to contemporize the answer. So we were at the Seminki Film Festival, me, Bobby Bediji, and Farooq Dhondi. Everybody knows Farooq in the room. Celebrated author, screenplay writer, wrote Bandit Queen, and so on. And we partnered with a local mentor there who rose Rosa's wedding, if you remember, Alicia Luna from Spain. Now, the moment we say hyper-local global, it has to be immediately understood as productive collaboration. Now, there are two ways of doing it. Sometimes you have mentors, which eventually turn into great production, initiatives where people come with great experience, have very little knowledge of the local market or the local sensibility, but somehow it's a dynamic evolutionary process that you start mentoring certain mentees, and then you also learn back from what kind of stories they are interested in and what kind of stories emerge. And the other parallel is that it's a 50-50. I go with a certain sensibility, and there is another sensibility from the country that you are partnering with, then it becomes a nice, kind of a collaboration. Spain was very specifically very interesting because Spanish people are very Indian in their sensibility. They love Indian cinema, they love for food, literally. exactly goes into the narratives of how we are.
They sleep
And
in the afternoon.
You and I will have trouble being vegetarians, but also the women are harbinger of lots of storytelling there. I will specifically talk about my mentee, who was a mid-career level, writer, and wanted to become a producer. And the 1 week that I spent with her, it was a very interesting tale of almost, say, in Rajasthan, you start the story in the 19th century. I'm giving you localized, the hyperlocal bit, and turns into a present-day scenario of the reportage of a crime that happened then. And this is an actual incident that happened in a village. She happened to be from the Canary Islands. And she picked up threads actually from the village of her grandmother, where an incident had happened about a woman who was ostracized, had not committed a crime, went to jail, almost died there, and impacted generations of people, after that, till it was found that she was innocent. So I think increasingly, and I will bring back the focus into what we are doing at the bazaar, the co-production. It's these which will create narratives of hyperlocalism. India has treaties with 17 countries today, and what a coincidence, on 20th November, the 18th treaty with Australia found fruition. The first day of the festival and the first day of the bazaar. So, when we talk about co-production, everybody thinks, oh my God, this is about subsidy, this is about, getting money. No. It's about creating the narrative of a joint consciousness. And that joint consciousness is what will give thrust. We keep our identities intact. In fact, the producers roundtable that we had the last day within the Seminki festival, I was specifically asked that question. And I said, nobody is going to fuse identities here. We will remain intrinsic to the nuance of culture that we belong to. Which means I, as an Indian producer, collaborating with a Spanish writer, I will not want to impinge upon the sensibility of the Spanish, content creator, whether a writer or a director and so on. But keeping the identities intact, we have to fuse into the collaboration part. And I think that is what will create this beautiful narrative. Increasingly, we are a global village. I mean, I was doing a session with Nawaz this afternoon. And I said to the audience, Sacred Games was consumed by 190 countries in one night. Remember, it was the first web series from India created entirely by Indians.